sometimes we have delays on the show, and you know why that is? Because we bring you amazing, and they're I don't want to say work in progress. Like, I mean, they are no, it's not. They're not works in progress. They're
completed works.
Ready. They're completed works. And I was trying to get this so our labels are not as high up, but maybe we should, well, whatever, we'll figure that out another time. So they're complete works. And then on top of that, here, I'll move back. On top of that, we just keep adding, and every guest on the show is amazing. And honestly, I'm not just saying this. Every guest on the show is someone I would have on their own. But then you put them together, and it's almost like, I don't know. What is it? The sum is bigger than the whole of its parts. So let me just give you a preview. I think Jack is co-signing that through silence. Other people would say
co-sign.
Complicity.
You know, my silence is complicity. Whenever let me go on record that my silence, and anytime I'm silent, that is complicity. So my silence.
You just complied with a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah. If I don't actively say it, then I am complicit. You know, that's my old standard.
Yeah. Okay. Just sharing this on Instagram because we absolutely must get the word out because, guys, this is a very important show. I'm not saying that because of me. I'm saying it because of the guests, Jack, Maria, Brad, Kelly.
Oh, you need me to record on my side, right, Katie? You want me to start that right now? Yeah. Okay, I'll start that right now. Sorry.
I just somehow made some audio thing on Instagram, which I don't really understand. But let me just post this. All right. Let me just do this, and it's our last thing. All right, guys, okay, here we go. Ready? Nope. Yes, no. Hold on. So, guys, let me tell you who our guests are. Why can't I just put on Instagram? I'm sorry, everyone. I just want an old-fashioned post. Okay, great. Here it is. Ready? Guys, here's who we have on the show. We have no big deal, Marianne Williamson. Amazing guest. Huge guest. If people don't know, she is a former presidential hopeful. She really did shift the discussion on many things, including she was like the first person to talk about reparations. She is the best-selling author of many books, including A Return to Love, A Politics of Love. And we're going to talk about other organizations she's involved in, which are really good. This is all in the YouTube description. Then we're going to talk to Esha Kwirshaswamy, friend of the show, the host of the Historically podcast. And Gerald Horne, who is such an amazing guest. He is an American historian who currently holds the John J. and Rebecca Morris Chair of History and African American Studies at University of Houston. And he's written like 40 books. So he's written more books than number of years I've been alive. Over 40 books. So that's great. We're very happy to do that. But guess who else we're talking to right before we talk to Esha and Professor Horne? I'll tell you who. Are you ready for this?
Who's that?
Ben Spielberg.
Wow.
No relation to Steven Spielberg, but someone we've been talking to a lot about various things, including Force the Vote. So without any further ado, let's bring on Ben Spielberg. He's going to tell us what just happened with the Force the Vote. Ben, are you there?
Hey, Katie, I'm here.
Hey, Ben. Also,
Ben,
I
what's
want to
going
give a proper introduction. Ready? Which is that Ben Spielberg is a wonk. I didn't add you to the lineup, so I don't have your bio. But why don't you introduce yourself, and then I'll hype you.
You're a wonk, right? You're a wonk.
You're a wonk, you are a wonk.
Sure, thanks.
I'm not wonk, I'm wonk elevating. Yep.
I like to think of myself as an advocate for social justice policy across the board. I co-founded and blog on 34justice.com and also spent some time working in DC on policy issues at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. So do have some experience in the DC policy space, and then just generally like to advocate for social justice policy.
Yes. Also, I'm just going to say one thing. And Jack, do I have your permission to say one thing that's like a warning and a policy position of mine? A wonk. Can I make a wonky position about my chat?
Hey, listen, I'll tell you my answer very clearly by remaining silent.
Great. Okay, good. The silence is complicity. So he's being
complicit.
Right.
That's right.
Okay. Everyone, I'm trying to call people in, and I'm saying this with love. If you can't watch Ben without commenting on his, I'm sorry, Ben, just cover your ears. But Ben is like, lets everything roll off his back. I don't know how he does it, but I love it. I'm going to hide the chat, but I need to say this because I feel like I'm somewhat responsible for No, I'm not. I'm trying to use my power for good. Okay, it's very stupid. Forget the we don't have to call neolibs who disagree. People who disagree with us neolibs. Ben actually agrees with us. I am chat elevating. Stop telling me not to chat elevate. Okay, everyone, shut up. Here's the deal. Except for the people I like. Ben is very smart, and it's kind of embarrassing when people just say "Oh, this neolib, this guy again." If you wanna never listen to policy stuff, then fine, go. I don't care. Ben is good. Even if he weren't good, I'd appreciate if you guys didn't sound like 5-year-olds who just discovered Karl Marx in the last 10 minutes and think you're really smart. I'm gonna lose all my audience. I don't care by saying neolib she'll sell out. No, save that for people who are that. I mean, I think it sounds cliched and corny anyway, but at least direct it to the right people. Okay, you're embarrassing me. You're embarrassing the show. Luckily, Ben doesn't care. And yeah, I'm simping now. I don't even know what simping now means, but I'm going to ignore the chat, and I'm going to listen to the very good people on the show. And I'm sorry, anyone who saw this, who this does not apply to, but you obnoxious people in the chat, you're like APAC. What do I mean by that? You do not represent most people, but you're loud. You're probably not funded, but you are loud, and you give some people the wrong impression of this, okay? And then I'm going to ignore the people telling me stuff because... yeah, I am high school marming. I am school marming again, and I school marm identify. Okay, now without any further ado, great. Ben, thank you for rejoining. Please give us a breaking news update about what just happened with this Michigas, because I don't even understand. I saw some people voted against Pelosi, then they voted for her. What's going on?
Well, so there was the speakership vote for Pelosi today, which we all knew was going to happen. And I don't think we should take it as a surprise that it panned out this way, because I think all indications were that it was likely going to. But Pelosi was reelected speaker. She got 216 votes, with all but 6 Democrats voting for her. And Kevin McCarthy, the Republican nominee, got 209 votes. The 6 Democrats that voted did not vote for Pelosi. None of them were the real progressive members of Congress. There were 2 kind of more moderates who voted for different Democrats. There were 3 who voted present, so said they were there, but just didn't take a position. And then there was 1 Democrat who did not vote. So Pelosi did get reelected to the speakership today. I think it is pretty disappointing, not just if you supported, again, specifically the floor vote as your one demand, but just in general, because Pelosi is really a big obstacle to any sort of progressive change. Having her as Speaker in the House for another 2 years is going to be a challenge for progressives to have to deal with.
So do you understand why certain people voted against her and then voted for her? Was it that they voted against her or they didn't vote? I just want to make sure I have the details of that down.
Yeah, so I think you're referring to initially some people thought that Cori Bush and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Barbara Lee did not vote for her. And, I'm not entirely sure what happened during the vote, but they broke it into several segments where they'd call different representatives by their last name in the alphabet. And so when they initially called Cori Bush, Barbara Lee, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, there was no response. Now, they may just have not been in the chamber at that time. At the end of the different calls for votes, they came back and they said, okay, everybody who didn't get an opportunity to vote the first time, we're going to go back through you. And it was during that time that they did cast their votes for Pelosi. So they did not vote against at any point. They just didn't cast a vote during the initial time that their name was called. We don't know why at this point entirely.
Right.
It might just be that they weren't there. And it's possible that they were doing something else at the time or were in discussions at the time, but we don't really know. Other than that, they did cast their lone vote in favor of Pelosi.
Right. I mean, what's interesting is, not what's interesting, but in theory, they could have been playing like a very engrossing game of Pentix, which is a Tetris style game. It's the only game I ever play, and I'm very bad at it. And at one point, we're going to have to play on my screen, and people can advise me because it's pathetic. But so they could have just been, maybe they were watching an episode of the Katie Halper show, and they just couldn't pull themselves away. We don't know, nor do we know what concessions, if any, they got, right? I guess they're saying it was the PAYGO thing, but I do want to just read one thing, which I guess I should read Cori Bush's statement, right? I'm reading from Dan Marin's tweet. Dan Marin's is a Huffington Post reporter. I don't know if you've already heard this, Ben. So if you have, apologies.
Right.
In the statement that Cori Bush provided to HuffPost about her decision to vote for Pelosi, she cites new exceptions to PAYGO and reforms to motion to recommit process. Quote, the progressive movement is well positioned to make the transformational change we need. And then says, throughout my transition to Congress, I've been in constant contact with House leadership about the pressing needs of Missouri's 1st District. Through these conversations, our movement was able to secure a historic appointment to the House Judiciary Committee, where I will bring the energy of the Ferguson uprising into legislative work that will protect Black lives. After working hard and making history on behalf of the people of St. Louis with that appointment, I was proud to cast my first vote on their behalf today in support of Speaker Nancy Pelosi. As we begin the 117th Congress, we are living through the most perilous public health and economic crises of our lifetimes. It is imperative that, with millions of lives on the line, the House is in order to pass the life-saving COVID-19 relief that we need. As incoming Deputy Whip of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, I was also proud that we secured reforms to PAYGO, a longstanding roadblock to the passage of the critical progressive priorities. There is an important step. This is an important step, and we will continue fighting until PAYGO is eliminated altogether. Additionally, as a Progressive Caucus, we secured reforms to the motion to recommit, putting an end to its divisive use by the Republican Party to poison legislation. From securing key community assignments to laying the groundwork to pass our agenda, the progressive movement is well positioned to make the transformational change we need. Okay, Ben, what are your thoughts on that? Or can you break that down for us?
So, look, I'm really excited about Cori Bush being in Congress, and I do think that she is going to advocate for the things that she said that she's planning on advocating for. Like, I think she's going to be a real ally in Congress, and we want her there. The thing that I don't think is particularly compelling, and I think that gets back to why progressives should be not very happy with the outcome of the speakership vote, is this idea that they were able to secure the motion to recommit and the PAYGO exemptions as their concessions in exchange for this vote. Because throughout this whole force the vote debate, I really think the most important issue has not been the question of, is a floor vote the thing that they demand or not? The most important issue to me has been, how are they going to exercise power when Democratic leadership really wants something to make sure that progressives get a lot of what we want, because there are enough progressives in the House to block parts of the Democratic agenda in order to.
Looks
you guys,
like we
just got
lost
the NSA, the CIA, all of them they heard what Ben was saying, and they were too threatened by him speaking truth to power. Oh, he's back because they heard us calling them out, Jack. We called them out. Maybe calling some other people in, but when it comes to the national security intelligence community, which as Max Blumenthal says is neither intelligent nor a community, we call out. So, Ben, thank you, by the way, intelligence community, for rebroadcasting Ben. Ben, what were you saying?
So, I think there were three approaches that they could have taken, and these are three approaches that kind of social justice advocates really have to weigh every time there is an issue that Democratic leadership wants. One approach is they basically say, look, we're going to do what you want anyway. We're going to vote for Pelosi as speaker. We're going to tell you the things that we want, but at the end of the day, you can count on our support. That's really a recipe. You can understand it in some ways if the alternative is really bad, but it's a recipe for not getting anything. So that's an approach in this circumstance that I don't really think was defensible for them to take. The other two approaches that they can take, one is they can say, look, Pelosi is a huge obstacle to progressive progress, and she's been super dismissive of us. She's blocked our agenda at every turn. We're not going to vote for her regardless of what you do. We need somebody new as speaker. So if you're going to put Pelosi up as the Democratic nominee for speaker, you just will not get our votes. They could have done that, and I think that would have been okay. But the third approach that they could have taken, and I think was the one some people were hoping that they were taking during this debate, was, we will consider voting for Pelosi if you give us one. And if they take that approach, we really need to look at, does Pelosi, that approach only works if Pelosi and the Democrats think that they might actually, at the end of the day, withhold their votes if they don't get enough. So the question here is, did they get, if you think that that's the approach that they were taking, did they get enough? And it's hard to evaluate without knowing everything that they advocated for. But I think this is the question that progressive organizations and individuals really need to take a hard look at, because when I look at the last few weeks, what I see is an Energy and Commerce Committee fight where AOC did not get the seat that she wanted, and somebody who voted against Pelosi in 2018 got that seat instead. I see a coronavirus relief bill that was a bad compromise bill that contained a lot of bad stuff that Democrats didn't have very much time to review before voting on it, that they were basically just handed as a take it or take nothing proposition. And then we see a rules package where progressives are pointing to wins they got, motion to recommit and PAYGO exemptions, but the exemptions aren't super broad. They wanted a full repeal of PAYGO. And motion to recommit is something that non-progressive Democrats probably wanted too. So, or at least many of them probably wanted to. So to me, this is not a big win for progressives, and we really should have seen more opposition to Pelosi and greater demands in this fight.
Yeah, so I don't know where we go from here. Maybe there's more organizing. Maybe there's abandoning electoral politics. That's a big question, but we're going to have to see. And Ben, anything else you want to say? I mean, you can stay on if you want for a little bit to overlap with our amazing next guests. Or you probably have to get back to, talking about this stuff with your wife, who's a doctor and a Medicare for All advocate. You probably have to talk with your sister and your mom, both of whom are nurses and Medicare for All advocates. Am I right?
Thank you for remembering that, Katie. Of course. Yeah, no, absolutely. The only thing I'll say, and then of course I'll cede to your other guests, but I don't think people should give up hope, and I don't think anybody should abandon electoral politics over this. What I would say is this was the first fight of the 117th Congress. We've got 2 years where there is a relatively slim Democratic majority and enough real progressive members of the House that they can exercise their power. What I would say we should all do is really think about, and again, working in concert with progressive organizations. Democratic Socialists of America is one great one that's doing a lot of really positive work, but we need to have conversations among those groups about how do we make sure that the progressive bloc in Congress does actually use its leverage in some of these upcoming fights, because this is not going to be the only one. There's going to be a ton of them, and we need to start winning them. And we just need to strategize to do it. So the only thing that I would say again is don't give up hope. Let's start strategizing now for how we're going to exercise our power.
Okay, got it. So keep hope alive. Keep organizing. And Ben, you're gonna be one of our regular Bens. There are a lot of Bens in this world, but no, you're gonna be one of our regular wonk stringers.
Wow.
That?
Well, thank you. I'm honored.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And again, everyone follow Ben. Everyone read his stuff, follow his blog. A bunch of great people in the header, in the banner. I believe you have Helen Keller up there.
Helen Keller is up there.
As a socialist?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, so thank you for reminding us of that. And okay, I'm going to bring in our next guest. Thank you again so much, and have a great night.
Thank you, Katie. Thanks, Jack. Have a good one.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, see ya.
So, wow, that was great. I love Ben.
Yeah,
we got someone donated $5 to, let me check it. It's actually I can see it in the YouTube. Someone very kindly donated $5 for Ben. So Ben, you can buy yourself a kombucha or whatever you guys do in the Bay Area, and or just donate to donate to a healthcare thing. And yeah, again, want to really thank him. Now we are going to bring in our next guest, Marianne Williamson. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Great. Yes, we can.
Great.
Hi, Marianne. How you doing?
Hi. Good to see you both.
Mm-hmm.
You too. Thank you so much for joining us.
Is this on?
Oh no, there we go. There we go.
Yeah, Hanukkah. This is a Hanukkah miracle.
Yeah.
Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa miracle. Thank you so much. And thank you for
this is the mic. That's what I thought. So I'm so glad you can hear me, right?
Yes, very much so. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so sorry about that.
No, don't worry about it. We need we need basically, I think everyone does these things, we just need to have everything set up and then turn it off. And all we do is turn it on. So that's my
right.
idea.
I had thought it was about the mic, so now we know.
Yeah. No, it's great. I say this to myself also. Don't worry, you should see me at the beginning of broadcast. So yes, thank you so much again for coming.
So you had asked me what I thought about today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer is that I think today was a terrible day. It was a really terrible day, like historically terrible day. I think that the next 2 years in the United States are going to be very significant in American history. And what happened today was such a cave. And even the people that we have been hoping they're going to go in there, how many times a day do we read their tweets? They're going there to fight for us. And we see their tweets of their new office door and they're going to fight for us. And today was a fold. It wasn't a fight. I don't know what day does the fight begin?
Mm-hmm.
How many days are you there before you start this fight? Because the first fight is with the corporatist Democratic establishment. And this is nothing personal about Nancy Pelosi. She's the first woman speaker. I have great respect for much she's done in the past. But what happened today was grievous. And I don't think that the Democratic Party has 2 years to prove to the American people that they will present a genuine alternative to the Trump-type forces. They have, I think, 100 days. And what was voted for today is same old, same old. The same old that lost us seats in the House. No company would thrive in this country that rewarded failed leadership the way the Democratic Party does. So I feel politically homeless today. I think a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
And what I guess, like, I want to know, given that you feel that way, what advice do you have, both politically, but also, and again, I know that people dismiss this, and I'm just inviting people, and I think this actually does appeal to a lot of people. And I think something that's happened with the pandemic, honestly, is that a lot of people have turned to new things that they didn't before. And there's nothing like hoo-hooey or apolitical, or there's no distraction from what's happening in the way that you talk about things. I would just want to say that, like, I think that people are understanding, people sometimes have a view of things like therapy or spirituality as distractions, a way to not deal with what's happening in the world. And you've talked to people. I've heard you say that to people. You were talking to someone who's on the spiritual side, and they were like, well, this is new. All of this is new. I can't believe it, this crisis. And you're like, no, it's been happening for a while. And just some people weren't aware of it. And there is that danger of spiritual, there's a word for it. I can't remember what it is, but of hiding through spirituality and not engaging. And you're someone who I think combines those two things. So I really am excited to have you on, because I think you can talk to people about what to do on a political level, but also like what to do on a psychic, emotional level, because people are hurting. They're feeling betrayed. They're feeling angry. And like you said, politically homeless. So
I don't see this distinction. I think it's such an immature conversation. Can we grow up now? I mean, everybody that you're saying, talking about these things.
Sorry, spiritual bypass. That was the term. Yeah.
What'd you say?
Spiritual bypass. I've heard that term.
Yeah, exactly. So in politics, we shouldn't do a spiritual bypass either. How could you? So I think that we are called upon to be real grown-ups right now. Mm-hmm. And to have a far more mature conversation than just how we feel at any given moment. This has to do with the history of our country. This has to do with the future of our democracy. Other generations, certainly abolitionists went through some depressing days. Women suffragettes went through some depressing days. People in the civil rights movement went through some depressing days. This is depressing. And the conversation has got to be what's actually happening. So what's actually happening is that we have been in our country from the beginning. We have been in a struggle between huge corporatist monopolistic forces. Our country was born of that struggle. The Boston Tea Party was the founders throwing the tea in the water because the British East India Tea Company was monopolizing the tea trade. Throughout our history, this has been the struggle. This is why in 1907, the Tillman Act Teddy Roosevelt talking about how corporations were controlling everything, passing the Tillman Act so the corporations could not give money to political campaigns. And then that was replaced by another era, Harding, Coolidge, Hoover, et cetera. And then FDR came in. He pushed back against the corporations again. He pushed back with the New Deal. And then after that, because of those New Deal policies, we had abundance in this country. We had prosperity in this country. And then in 1980, Ronald Reagan. In 1970s, the average worker in this country could own a home, get a good paycheck, have good benefits, maybe even have a summer home, take vacations, send their kids to college, have a house and a car. Today, the wealth inequality is so hideous. It is so extreme. Nothing like this has been true since 1929. The 400 richest people in this country have an average of $6 billion. And so what has happened now is that these forces of oligarchy and corporatism, they've bought the Republican Party hook, line, and sinker. The Republican Party is so bought by that, they'll give us some crumbs. But the Democratic Party, as we now know, say, don't worry about crumbs, we'll give you a cookie. This is a new feudalism. This is so much bigger than how we feel. We should feel horrible that this is happening. We should grieve. We should read history, I think. I think this is a really important time to read American history, because I hear a lot of people say, oh, it's always been this way. It actually hasn't always been this way. Too many people on the left need to read. There's a great book by Tom Hartman on the history of monopolies and how big business has destroyed the American dream, how big business monopolies have been the tyrannical force in the United States since the beginning. But other generations have pushed back on it. And if we don't push back on it, and what's happening now is that we don't have a political arm for pushing back on it. When I was growing up, that's what the Democratic Party was. The Democratic Party has now become what the Republican Party used to be. And words like feudal, this is basically becoming a feudal society. And when you have this kind of corporate stranglehold of your government, this is fascism that we're talking about here, guys. And so I think this is, for me, this is so much bigger than everybody talks about Medicare for all. Medicare for all is just one piece of it. We have a Democratic Party where there's no peace movement in this country right now. Right. It has been completely obliterated. Nancy Pelosi talking about the NDAA like it's something to be proud of. Hundreds of billions of dollars more given to the Pentagon than the Pentagon is even asking for, just so that Raytheon and Northrop Grumman and Boeing can get more money, get more profits. Plus a Raytheon board member coming on as Secretary of Defense. I mean, we have to, right now, we'll cry later. We'll cry later, okay? We'll cry later. Today, we need to grieve, but I think it's a very important time for us to be very serious about the larger historical pattern of what's going on in our country and what it means that this, first, we saw what happened with Bernie. You know, you could say, well, in the past, they had a Teddy Roosevelt to push back the corporations, and then they had Franklin Roosevelt to push back the corporations. Well, we had one too. His name was Bernie Sanders. And we know what the system does now. There's no room. It is a pre-prescribed corporatist political conversation, like you had the Pete Buttigieg on, close to Obama. Hello, let's be real what's going on in this country. It is a pre-prescribed conversation. They have pre-prescribed notions of who can even be in the conversation. You have, because Reagan got rid of the Fairness Doctrine, so you have no real news. You have the Telecommunications Act, which was Clinton, so that a few corporations own the news media now, and the mainstream news media is just more entertainment and more of a mouthpiece for that same corporatist mentality. This is an emergency. This is a historical emergency in American democracy. And to see the people that we thought, well, they're going to go in there and they're going to fight for us, and we see their tweets every day, they're going to fight for us. And they went in there today, and you know what we're supposed to be impressed by? Well, a few of them didn't vote for her till the very last round. Right. Oh, really? Oh, thank you, Master. Excuse me. And I feel that we all need, this I do know. The Republican Party would not get rid of the malignant cancer of the Trump administration. The Republicans would not get rid of it. The Democrats couldn't get rid of it. The people got rid of it. And the people are going to react to what happened today. And I don't know what form it's going to take, but I have faith in the inner rambunctiousness of the American people. And we're not going to stand for this. I don't know what form the course correction is going to take, but I don't believe that this generation of Americans is going to roll over. Enough is enough. We saw Trump elected. We saw Bernie and others, I must say, suppressed. We saw what happened today. The American people are going to step in and do something. Abolition did not come from the political parties. It came from the people. Women's suffrage didn't come from the political parties. It came from the people. The civil rights movement did not come from the political parties. It came from the people. And the course correction now, we get where the Democrats are. We get where the Republicans are. I'm not saying conversation about third party, whatever. I respect it. I don't think that there's an easy silver bullet here, but I know the American people are going to rise up. We're going to show up, and we're not going to let our democracy go down like this. We're just not. We're not.
Yeah,
I don't know. I have an idea of what it'll lead to is big losses in 2022. That's actually what it feels like to me, is that like we're just going to lose even more of the House in 2022. And, yeah, it is hard to see anything positive in the short term. It really is.
And we didn't go over the cliff. To me, what it means that we didn't go over but we're still 2 inches away from it. Mm-hmm. And those people are already working it. Marco Rubio is working it. Tom Cotton is working it.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Speaking truth to power. Get booted off. But we're gonna wait.
You mentioned Tom Cotton. You get booted. You get pulled off if you mention Tom Cotton.
Yep. And Rubio.
Oh boy.
You know, who was it? Some people are mentioning Rubio as a. Have you seen this? Like, there. Okay, great. Let's see. Okay. Whoops. Hold on a second. Thank you, Marianne. Sorry, you were speaking too much truth to power, and the man picked you off. Yeah. You were saying.
Well, I was disagreeing with that.
Yeah, you said they're working at what was it? The Rubio and Cotton, right?
Sure, they're planning to, Trump 2.0. And they will, in their minds, do it better. And that's why it's so important that everybody, all the criminal acts involved in this administration must be prosecuted. Because unless these people are afraid of jail time, they'll just keep going forward. I think a lot of people don't realize, it's true that Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon, but many people went to jail. Haldeman went to jail. Ehrlichman went to jail. The attorney general at the time, John Mitchell, went to jail. John Dean, the president's lawyer, went to jail. We must get tough. We must. Tough, radical truth telling does not mean that you're non-loving. Mm. Love sometimes says no. Mm-hmm. Love sometimes says no, and we had to say no to Donald Trump, and we need to say no to the corporatist forces in whatever party that would basically de-democratize this country and turn the majority of American citizens into little more than economic serfs.
Now, as you know, I mean, right now on Twitter, what is it? This fraud squad is trending. # fraud squad, and what is your response to this? Both like what was done and also what needs to be done about it? Because I think a lot of people,
First of all, they deserve the hashtag. They deserve it. And their comms people are reading it. And if they're worried, they should be. Mm. A lot of people feel very let down tonight because there's something that happens when you get into that building. I don't know if Nancy gives you her cell number and that's supposed to impress you or what. I don't know what it is. They get into there. It's kind of like when you put someone on a board, a corporate board or a board of an organization, board of directors, and there's some weird psychological something that happens. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that they're being # fraud squad, I mean, I wouldn't do that. That's not my style.
Right.
But I think that's a real American thing to do. And, in a democracy, we don't have a king. We're not supposed to say, oh, okay, we're supposed to express ourselves. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think
they're concerned about it tonight. They should be concerned. They should be concerned.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see one more tweet from any of them tomorrow. We're here to fight for you, because they said not a word today. And the fact that you didn't vote the first round was not enough. I'm sorry.
Okay. I agree with Marianne. Oh, there we go. She's on the other. There's another one through there.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry. 1 second. Hi.
That's what we should be doing. We should be having an intelligent conversation about what's the politics. We should be talking about the military-industrial complex. We should be complaining about putting in a general who is a board at Raytheon. We should be talking about the fact that Nancy Pelosi has not stood up about Yemen. We should be talking about what we're going to say to Blinken, how we need to talk about Armenia, how we need to talk about Yemen, how we need to talk about Saudi Arabia, the woman who is in jail because she was protesting so that women could drive. We need to be talking about bringing moral authority back to our American foreign policy as well as domestic policy. That's what I believe. We need to be having a robust conversation about things that matter. And the things that matter, I believe, are more than individual issues, but the larger issue of this monopolistic corporate control, which now has eaten into the Democratic Party too so much that even the people we thought were there to fight for us on day one went along with the system. We should talk about it without personal demonization. But damn right we should talk about it. Not every disagreement is an attack. And I think they should absolutely hear from us that we were not pleased with what went down today. And we respectfully let them know this shit will not stand.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we have to stand up to the people that are on the left. You know, I can't agree with that more. Couldn't agree with that more.
And some people are going to, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, keep going.
Well, some people, there's all the talk about the People's Party. Some people's hearts will lead them to a third party conversation. Some people's hearts will feel something about the Democratic Party. I don't know. To me, it's just a shocking day. And I have a lot to process. And I think a lot of people have a lot to process. You know, I think also something for all of us to remember. Not like one of you was saying a few minutes ago, not everybody has to agree with us. None of us has the monopoly on truth. Sometimes I'll see a tweet, sometime from one of you guys, Katie, there's a whole family of people here. And it's like, wow, I hadn't thought of it quite that way. Maybe it's not even the way I saw it right then, but maybe in a few days. I mean, that's how we grow. It's a marketplace of ideas, but we should not be knocking each other down. And even the people like I quoted Mondaire Jones today with obviously a corporate Democrat line, why he was voting for her. But I'm not going to think, okay, because he did one thing the first day that I don't like.
Right.
Yeah. And I hope all of them will be in process. And I hope we'll all be taking a journey together.
Yeah. You know, I agree. We should push back on people, but in some ways, the fact that we have anyone to push back on shows that the left has been just like has had nothing for so many years. Like, this is the first time that we actually have representatives that we even expected could possibly not vote for Pelosi. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to carry water for people or anything like that, but that there are even elected representatives who are responsive to this movement at all is a different as a change.
Right. But then the question, Marianne, please.
Well, it's all part of the larger conversation. It's part of the Bernie conversation. It's part of what's happened in the last two presidential elections. It's also Chuck Schumer. It's Chuck Schumer choosing Amy McGrath rather than leaving it to the Democrats of Kentucky to come up with the person that they thought was best, which obviously was Booker. Right. But then Chuck Schumer comes in there with all of his money and makes it happen. And his choice of Gideon, it's the whole lot. It's the whole cabal of it. And we need to talk about all of it, but at at a level with, I believe, intellectual depth and understanding.
Yeah.
We need to make it very clear that we are not okay with the corporatist direction, which is a monopolistic direction. It is an oligarchic direction, and it causes huge suffering among millions of people. We will not stand for that. But at the same time, we don't wish to personally demonize. We don't wish to personally attack. And we're going to find that sweet spot. And we're going to do what other generations have done before us. We're going to somehow find a way to course correct. And I can't tell you how that's going to happen, but I can share with you my conviction that it will.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Any final? I mean, we can talk about anything, but you've also been very generous with your time.
Oh, don't be silly. No. It's great to see you. It's great to see you, Jack. And
good to see you too, Marianne.
I'm going to sleep sad tonight about what happened today, but we're going to go tomorrow and see what happens, and we'll stay in there because this is our country and this is our time. Somebody sent me a greeting card the other day that had a quote from Jean-Paul Sartre on the front, and it said, "These are not beautiful times, but there are times. And these are our times."
Yeah.